Probably they've identified at least 10 different estrogens.
How do you not see that estrogen has risk?
You could take it and be like way too stimulated.
Yes, I don't feel like it's negative. Like we're all women. We all have estrogen in our body.
Your body is going to change, and that's okay.
You're turning off your biological rhythm.
Good morning. This is another episode of Celluverse. My name is Alana Keneally, and I'm here with the one and only Dr. Keneally.
Hello, everyone.
And of course, we have my bestie, Jessie.
Hi.
Just
I don't think you've ever called me Jessie before.
It rhymes with bestie, kind of.
I'm here for it.
Jessica. Jess Donovan. And we're so excited to be with you guys today. We thought we would do things a little bit differently this episode because I feel like the entire health world has been up in arms, or not up in arms, but has been talking a lot about the new FDA changes about estrogen and hormone therapy. And we talk about this every day. I think we have the most unique voice on social media about this. So we thought we would talk through it so that we could add more story and context to the topic. And the reason we care about this topic so much is because Mom has literally lived and breathed a one of the worst tragedies in medical history that literally is forgotten to history. They do not teach this in medical school, but it is one of the greatest tragedies placed on women. And we don't talk about it, but Mom lived and breathed it. So yeah. And she was, it has to do with estrogen and hormone therapy and all those things in between.
And hormonal problems and imbalances and the conundrum of hormones.
Yeah. So what happened?
So when I'm number 3 of 6 children, and my mother started bleeding. I grew up in Texas, and she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, we have a medication that we can give you that will stop the bleeding and prevent the loss of the baby. And that drug was called DES, diethylstilbestrol. It's a very synthetic, potent estrogen. Then I'm a teenager, and my parents received a letter saying, you were administered this medication, you need to bring your daughter to a cancer institute, because what they found that DES caused cancer in both male and female offspring, hormone problems, infertility, anatomical problems, and much more. And so one day I'm going to write a book called One Little Drug.
Ooh,
because I have lived lots of different curveballs and detours as a consequence. And that's why I do what I do now, is to really provide truth and transparency on not just DES and hormone issues, but just the veracity of medical information. And people are, in the last 100 years, since the medical profession has been hijacked, it's one drug, one cause, and one disease. And we know it's just not that. And so we want to impart the best information for you and clarify what's out there, because this black box warning, Alana, you want to read the black box warning that was on? So first of all, in 2002, they had the Women's Health Initiative, and it was to study how hormones, low-fat diet affected women. So in the study, they used Premarin, which is pregnant mare's urine, estrogen from that extracted, with medroxyprogesterone. So these are not hormones that are even in your body, okay? So there's over 50 hormones in the body. But when we're talking about estrogen, it's not just estrogen. There's multiple forms of estrogen. When a woman is 20 years old, she's making they've identified at least 10 different estrogens. Then you also make progesterone. You also make testosterone. And then it's all the hormones in the rest of the body, the thyroid, the adrenals, the insulin and glucagon. And then the grandmother of all hormones, which is pregnenolone. So we can't just talk about estrogen, because that's just one of over 50 hormones that need to be considered. And it's the kind and class of estrogen that you're taking. And if you're going to take hormones, any hormone, it should be biologically identical to your own physiology.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
complex.
a really complicated topic to go. Yeah, why? What does this have to do with DES in you? Like, DES was synthesized to prevent miscarriage. They also looked at it for birth control, but it's a synthetic estrogen. And one of the questions we get a lot is like, why? They're like, it's not bioidentical, so it doesn't matter. That's not true at all. Synthetic estrogen and bioidentical estrogen are both estrogenic.
Correct.
Which is different than progesterone. Bioidentical progesterone and synthetic progesterone don't both act like progesterone. So sometimes we get comments like, what does this have to do with this? And it's like, they're both estrogenic. They have the same effect. So what we can learn about estrogen is so clearly painted in the DES story because it was such a large dose of estrogen. And so you can see that estrogen actually does have some risks that, I mean, while we're bringing this to today, I think we're the only people that talk about potential risks of estrogen. Not to say it's negative, not to say it's bad or you should never take it. In fact, I think talking about risks of estrogen doesn't help us at all. We both sell estrogen. So, and we're just maybe understand it more than most people, and you've lived the risks of it. So talking about like some of the risks that you lived through, so as a growth hormone, you had scoliosis.
I had scoliosis, which it was impactful during the gestational period when my mother was pregnant. And the exact time, I have no idea when it was, but it was a very important time for my spine development. Then I never had 2 periods in a row. So that means my hypothalamic pituitary axis is always kind of, not perfect. And I know that because as I've aged, when I work a lot and have lots of stress, I feel like that is really turned upside down. So what is that hypothalamic pituitary axis? So you have the brain's brain, which is the hypothalamus, and it sends a message to the pituitary. And then the pituitary sends stimulating hormones to all your body for production of all your hormones. And so then I had infertility because I did not have regular menstrual cycles like Jess has regular menstrual cycles and fortunately recently got pregnant. And
You heard it here first.
Was I not supposed to say that?
No, tell everyone. This was my pregnancy announcement. Is on the Estrogen podcast. I'm so excited.
We thought it'd be a little bit more ceremonial, but
No, this is exactly how I dreamt it.
And we're so excited.
she's so fertile.
We are so excited. Even when we're talking about estrogen and like the potential side effects,
we're thinking about
are
Jess.
excited about my pregnancy.
Yes. And estrogen's really important for pregnancy.
Yeah, especially in the first
It
trimester.
allows
Yes.
us to get pregnant. Yeah.
Yes, very important. And so, anyway, but also, I think even after having babies, because I had to go to infertility specialists to kind of create the scenario of having a menstrual cycle and having babies. But then after that, I still didn't have menstrual cycles. So fortunately, I found the beautiful progesterone. So progesterone really literally saved my life because I would cycle it. And back then, they didn't have what they had today. I had to use injections of progesterone. So I would mimic a physiological cycle of 28, 30 days. And so no progesterone for the first couple of weeks. And then I would inject myself with natural progesterone in oil for the second half of the cycle. So I did that until I was at an A4M conference, an anti-aging conference, and this pharmacist, that's all they did was make compounded natural hormones. So he goes, oh my gosh, Dr. Keeley, you're injecting yourself with natural progesterone. Look, I have an amazing time-release progesterone pill. He goes, I'm going to overnight it to you. So sure enough, I found time-released natural progesterone, and I didn't have to inject myself, and it was like a blessing. So it's been, and then the scoliosis, I didn't get diagnosed until I was going to a college physical. But then once you've developed, you can't do anything about it. And so there wasn't anything I haven't learned about scoliosis in the treatment and progression and every aspect. There was lots of interventions from acupunctures to injections to all kinds of different physical interventions that I went to a practitioner who had something called the clear method. And so I tried everything. And then when I was 60, I was like, okay, like I even did lots of spiritual, emotional work to like, okay, like the body has invincible capability to heal. I just did. There wasn't a path. I didn't try to look down. And then finally, I'm like 60. I'm like, I need to do something because these things have the potential to get worse. Mm-hmm. So I found the best doctor in Germany. And I went to Germany because this doctor taught the doctors here in the United States. And he was world renowned and amazing. And I went through 14 hours of surgery 6.5 years ago. And then I finished the surgery 3 months later, 4 hours. So that was an outrageous experience to go through.
Yeah. Ray Pete's whole thing was about how estrogen is a growth hormone, not the female hormone. There was this book a long time ago called Femininity Forever. It's a very, very famous book that they used to kind of as estrogen propaganda. They said that you would stay young forever if you used estrogen, and history repeats itself. It's kind of the same language you hear now about estrogen. But Ray Pete's theories on estrogen are so, so important to understand because like the growth mechanisms is really why estrogen is so important, especially in like the female body, because Jess is pregnant, so you can really understand like growth. You need like a ton of growth infused into the body to literally create a fetus. And the hormone that does that, this is why Ray Pete calls estrogen the hormone of new beginnings, because you need estrogen to encourage the cell to take in water and calcium, which causes the cells to divide. You need a lot of cell division to literally create a human. That is a new cells that need to get made. Something's got to encourage them to divide. So, but that growth does not promote order necessarily. That's what progesterone does. It promotes differentiation. And so when you see like scoliosis, that's growth, right? Or cysts, that is growth. Endometriosis, untethered growth, same thing with cancer. Anytime you see growth, you should think this is estrogen's message. And that's why like estrogen's a double-edged sword, is because it encourages growth, but growth needs to cease at some point, needs to stop.
Right. It needs to be controlled.
Mm-hmm. Needs to be controlled in the beautiful
orchestration.
And in the menstrual cycle, you actually only have estrogen surge for such a brief moment. Like it's very short. I think Ray Pete even says it's like in hours, like amount of hours you're exposed to it. And so a lot of people think you have this like flood of estrogen in the body during the menstrual cycle. It's not true at all. It's actually a very brief moment. And it's a very small amount. Estrogen is like it's like a drop of, like it's very strong. It's very poignant in the effect of it. So you don't really use that much in the body. And then you're like, well, why does the human body have a hormone that's like carcinogenic? And it's because you have progesterone to always keep it under wraps. And like this is like God did not have like one species more affected by something than the other, because we have more estrogen exposure in the body. Literally, we have also a ton of progesterone exposure to protect us. And that's why women live longer. It's not estrogen, it's progesterone. We live longer because we have the protective effects of progesterone. So it's kind of beautiful. The human body has such duality. Everything we see in the human body, we also see in nature. We see these, I think one study described estrogen as like a snake that's like coiled together, like eating itself. Because actually there's a lot of metaphors. They say it's like two warriors locked in a battle, progesterone and estrogen. But sometimes we bring up these risks and we're never saying it's bad. Obviously, nothing in nature is like bad. It's just like a message.
Right.
But everything in nature has risks.
It's a perfect, it's a divine symmetry.
Yeah. It's so, 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 so beautiful. And that's why I get kind of enraged when someone comments on Instagram and is like, you're putting down women. And I'm like, I'm literally like, explaining the story of
embellishing
hormone.
The beautiful symmetry and orchestration of women.
It's so incredible.
Don't put women in a tiny little corner of estrogen. Like we're so much more than just that.
More, right?
Yeah. So it's just like people just have never really dug into it, and like they're just like, I'm like, you just got here.
Yeah,
just start
but then
taking
also
hormones.
they're not getting the right information as well. So it's not necessarily like it's like the layman's fault. It's just that like we're being told what the FDA tells us.
Yeah.
Let's take off the black box warning. There's
And by
nothing
the
to
way,
be-
the FDA also approved DES. So it's
Yeah.
just like
Right.
abolish the FDA, honestly. Like it's
Yeah.
So what exactly was the warning that was like removed?
So there were black box warnings on certain hormone therapy drugs, and they removed them. But I mean, to be clear, they did keep the risks on the back label of the
They're
medication.
just not as scary.
There's
no black box.
There's no black box. Which like someone commented on Twitter, and it was like, doctors need those black boxes. I'm like, because doctors are not always the most prudent with how they prescribe.
Well, most doctors may not know the black box warning.
They may.
Because
I don't think
unless
they
they're
know about
taking it,
hormones.
they wouldn't get it, right?
Yeah.
So
I just don't think they are that knowledgeable about like the deep intricacies of how these hormones are
right,
really
most,
working.
Yes, most doctors have to go take a course on learning about hormones. It's something you're taught in medical school, but then when you go in training, they don't have modules on hormones unless you are shadowing somebody who is an expert. Because when you go to the OBGYN, he or she may really know about hormones, and then some may not fully know the depth of hormones, because we're discovering hormones all the time now. Like, science is changing. It's interesting because I met a cardiologist last week, and then he wanted to come and visit. So he came and visited yesterday, and he's like, oh, I'm learning all about hormones. He's a cardiologist. Okay, well, all the hormones affect the heart, right? So he's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go be taking my test next month to, on hormones, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he goes like, I never knew how the hormonal orchestra affected the body. And he's a cardiologist. And like, for example, a man's level of testosterone is the single greatest predictor of heart disease. Mm-hmm. So we all should know hormones because it are the natural chemical messengers that turn on and off your body. So it's basic and foundational to all of us. And now that we're living in this chemical soup and we have hormone disruptors on a regular basis, so we really need to know how those hormone disruptors affect the body.
Yeah. It's really interesting because, I don't know, I guess the picture that's getting painted now is like estrogen just doesn't have any risks, which if you understood, you don't, maybe you just believe that, but like if you look at the story of DES, I'm like, how do you not see that estrogen has risk? Like,
no one's looking at that story.
When you
I
look
guess
at
they're not.
cancer alone, there are estrogen receptors for breast cancer, for example, and there's estrogen receptors for female cancer, like endometrial, ovarian, fallopian tube. I'll tell you a story. Years ago, I had a patient who came in with fallopian tube cancer, which is very, 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 very rare. So when she came in for her first visit, so I'm going over her history and how this came about, and then I asked her, I said, look, I read your pathology report. It didn't say anything about hormone receptors. I said, I need you to go and call your surgeon and ask him or her if there was estrogen receptor positivity. So she did, came back next visit, estrogen receptor positive. I said, okay, if that's the case, you're not going to be able to take estrogen. So that happens, I would say, on a regular basis.
they recommend it now, despite that they're like, it's pretty much safe. I'm like, so estrogen is causing the cancer, and where's the logic that you want to keep adding more estrogen? I'm just like, am I missing something?
Well, and I see these young women, their 30s, give or take, 25, 35 young women who have ER-positive breast cancer. We have to shut down the estrogen. I had a young girl, I think from Oklahoma, and she was diagnosed about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And then, of course, she felt horrible shutting down her estrogen. But now the cancer's back.
What kind of cancer?
Breast cancer. And she's ER positive. So she's telling me her story. And I said, we've got to shut down the estrogen. Okay, you're 27, you have 2 babies, you're ER positive. Like, we must shut this down this time. Okay, plus all the other things we need to do. So, and I know women can feel very, very horrible when they shut down their estrogen. I know that. Okay, I've lived it, so I know. But at the same time, we got to save your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like we're trying to help you understand. You don't want to get to that point where you're going on tamoxifen or anastrozole. It's like so painful. Like, if you go on Reddit and read the stories of women, they're like, they choose not taking the medicine because it feels so bad.
Right. Well, when we have a woman who's 25, 35, whatever those young ages, because cancer is super aggressive when you're young, and they have to go on Lupron. So Lupron is an injection that shuts down your ovaries, hopefully completely. And I say hopefully to shut down the estrogen feed. And then they layer it with anastrozole or letrozole, another estrogen blocker. So the psychological, physical, emotional manifestation of that, and I know personally because I took Lupron, because they wanted to shut down my ovaries and mimic pregnancy. And I took one shot. I thought, oh my God, it was horrible. And one shot affected me for 1 year.
Really?
Yes. So I was like, oh my God. So I know I lived it. So I feel, and I feel for them. But I tell patients today, like, that has to be part. We know you're estrogen receptor positive. So we have to shut that down for right now. So I can use it. I said it's a bridge for us to get to the other side.
Yeah.
Right. And then I try all different things to help them with the manifestations. Now, I know in the conventional world, they give Effexor and they give all these medications. Well, like, you're kind of trading one problem for another problem, right?
Yeah.
So I try to do a natural, supplement for these situations.
Yeah.
And then literally I've had patients, they just have to get off. Like literally they have no quality of life.
Yeah. I see that.
So it's a real thing, and every individual goes through a different path. There's no two people alike. Some people do incredibly well, and then some people don't do well. So, but you got to listen to the patient, and you got to create the best viable living program for the patient, because these people have young babies and they're physically, emotionally compromised, So,
Yeah.
so it's not easy. And that's why we really now, because cancer is 1 in 2 people, we've really got to focus on creating health and humanity.
I have a question. This might be controversial, so we can cut it out. But what about who was behind the FDA taking away the black box warning? Because if you think about the culture right now, there's also a lot of men taking estrogen, and what's that doing to them?
Right. Well, men.
Who's
really
men? Brian Johnson.
No, biological men.
Oh.
Trans women.
Okay.
Taking estrogen.
Yeah, and I did. There's higher rates of, I think it was Alzheimer's. I did on trans. I forget which one it was. Which of those?
Well, you have to be careful because there is a perfect balance of hormones in the human body.
Yeah.
And a doctor needs to do, like I said, a full analysis of all the hormones and look and see, because estrogen can proliferate prostate cancer, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and even other cancers can have estrogen receptors. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I personally don't think there's a single cancer that's not
right. That's what I've read.
By hormones.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have to be, again, very careful, very cautious, looking at the myriad of things contributing to the cancer. All right. And then how you metabolize it. I mean, there's just so much to it. And I I know. I heard about Brian Johnson using
He
it
applies
for
like
some-
8 milligrams or something of estrogen.
What's his reasoning behind
Yeah.
taking
Because
estrogen?
it's being promoted as a longevity drug,
But
which
men
it's not.
naturally have
not.
normal production of endogenous estrogen. Why would you enhance that? Like it's normal. They have it normally.
Well, yeah, and it encourages like breast development, and that's why when you hit puberty, you get breasts and you get more curvy and stuff. It encourages fat storage. That's back in the day. Estrogen was maybe going to be named Adipin because it's made in every tissue. It's made in fat tissue.
Right.
And that is like perfect for the human body because estrogen needs to get called into if there's a stressor. So all stress tissue will produce estrogen to get called in to regenerate cells. But that is also a concern because really when it comes to like a menopausal woman using estrogen, there's few concerns, but the tissue bound estrogen, like that
as opposed to serum.
yeah, exactly.
and
You
other-
never know exactly what's going on in the tissue because it's tissue bound unless you do a biopsy. And so, when you have a lot of tissue bound estrogen, you tend to have lower serum estrogen. So you're going, oh my gosh, my blood levels are low, but it's actually just tied up in the tissue. And that's why you'll see like blood levels low of estrogen, but someone has breast cancer. And you're like, wait, so it's not caused by estrogen. My estrogen's low. It's like, no, it's tissue. It's in the tissue. It's stress tissue producing its own estrogen. And same thing with endometriosis. Like endometriosis literally produces its own estrogen. Stress tissue produces estrogen. And so, that's just one of the insane, amazing things about estrogen. It's getting made in the tissue, not just the ovary. So ovary production goes down in menopause. Tissue production ramps up. And that's the human body compensating for the lower ovarian production. But that's why blood tests are a little shaky. They can be
also
useful,
because
but
they're also only checking estradiol levels. They're
Yeah.
not checking estriol. And you should be checking progesterone, testosterone, pregnenolone, DHEA sulfate. You need to be checking all the hormones, looking at everybody's, hemoglobin A1C, their thyroid. You have to look at all the hormones because they're working in an orchestra.
yeah. But back to men taking estrogen, I know a lot of times they give people the estrogen blockers when they go on testosterone.
Yes,
doesn't
because as
aromatize.
men age, their enzyme aromatase increases, and you tend to make more estradiol as men age. So you don't want to be taking it as you age because you're already making it. Your enzyme is aromatizing and making more estrogen. So that's not a good alternative.
Yeah.
So that's why when you check a man's testosterone, you better be checking his total estrogens and estradiol.
Is that why when women go on TRT, they feel better because they do the estrogen blockers?
No. They
No?
usually, but they'll give progesterone, so that's a natural estrogen blocker. Sometimes they give the progesterone to men too, but not as often as like an
Right.
estradiol.
Right. But TRT is, you mean for women? Well, that's testosterone replacement therapy. Again, that's only one hormone, but you do feel good because testosterone helps your sense of well-being, helps your energy, helps your muscles, your bone, your heart, your immune system, your blood sugar. I mean,
Yeah.
it does. It's a great hormone.
It's a hell of a drug.
Yeah.
It's why men recover faster from the flu than women.
Really? Men do?
Yeah.
It's shocking.
Well, and that's
Not in
why
my
they're
house.
twice as strong as us too. So
Not in this house. Yeah. But it's such a hard topic because when women use estrogen, they actually do feel a lot better. And there's a few reasons for that. Estrogen's very stimulatory. It's a very excitatory hormone. And so I sent just this thing that Ray Pete wrote about how when you give estrogen to rats, they can run 30 miles. And so a lot of times when we'll go on it and they're like, I feel so energized, I'm going to keep using it. But it's because it's also a stress hormone. So when you have a lot of like stress released, it's very exciting. Like when you wake up at like 4 a.m. and you're like, so it's like, very stimulatory. But I remember one time I was in Mexico. This was before I was even working in hormones. I was talking to this lady and she's like, I'm so sorry if I'm being a little weird. I just got my estrogen pellets in and I feel like I'm tweaking. And I'll never forget that. And I was
Tweaking?
like, she said that. She's like, I feel like I'm tweaking.
wow.
And she was like kind of buzzing a little bit. And she just got her estrogen pellets. And I remember this, like that memory just being like, that is so interesting. What are you talking about? And I remember like going back and reading everything, what she was talking about. But Yeah, so that's why women can feel better on it. That doesn't mean it's healthy. It means, I mean, repeat famously like akin to estrogen to cocaine, because that stimulation, it feels really good to be stimulated. And so that is the trouble with this is like, you want women to feel good. And they do feel good, but could be risky. And you never know if you're taking, there's no way to 100% know if you're taking enough progesterone, testosterone, and DHEA and thyroid to protect against the effects of the estrogen that you're also taking. So you may be okay, may not be okay.
Right. That's why every individual is an original, and you have to assess each person and put them on the right balance. And then it's estradiol and estriol, because estriol can be, it's the weaker estrogen. Estradiol is the super, powerful estrogen. So usually you want those in a balance. Because as women age, they make estrone. So estrogen also can contribute to different kind of cancers.
Yeah.
So
Do you take a little, so at Reina, I developed this method for using hormones, if you're like considering it, called the all method. That's basically like doing everything else before you add estrogen. And to me, it's the most logical method. So you do, progesterone, thyroid, DHA, if you need thyroid, or if you need DHEA, these are things that are actually very evident in the blood. Like if you have high TSH, if you have low DHEA, if you have low progesterone, pregnenolone, and then trying to solve your symptoms with just those items, and then adding an estrogen as needed in later life.
right. Yeah, you can do that. Especially with women who have a history of cancer, then that would be a good way to do it once they're done with their cancer treatment and everything. So that'd be a good way to do it. And a lot of women will feel great just with that. And then some of those hormones can make estrogen. So you can check their level in a month and see what their estrogen is after they've taken pregnenolone, DHEA, and thyroid replacement and or thyroid glandulars.
Yeah. I have a question. Why do they not give progesterone for breast cancer like more often?
Well, it's kind of interesting. Doctors are cautionary when a patient is diagnosed, because you just don't know. So a blanket rule is don't add anything to the mix. Get the cancer under control first before you add anything to the situation.
That makes sense, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But the progesterone could get it under
Could
control.
help. And I mean, if you look at the literature, there's so much on this
Yeah.
about the anti-cancer benefits of progesterone. But I think when someone's diagnosed, it's just an overall cautionary pathway is to, let's just get everything under control and then decide what's best for them after that.
Yeah. So anyways, the FDA basically looked at like some studies and said that they don't need any more black box warnings. And this was brought on, like, sorry to not really answer your question, but what I termed the menopause mafia online, like, really wanted these warnings to go away, which is like, on the one side, I'm kind of like a libertarian and just like let people do whatever they want. On the other hand, I'm like, it is a risky hormone, and doctors are kind of clueless. For some of them, in my opinion, my humble opinion, are clueless. And like most of the studies they looked at were observational, which is like the core difference with between us and everyone else is like they bring up studies, we bring up mechanisms. So we're always comparing apples to oranges because they're like, look at this bone study, like this, look at the brain Alzheimer's studies. And it's like, you're always going to be grasping at studies that are, by the way, mostly observational, which are not great because women that are healthier tend to take hormones. Like there's a ton of confounding factors. It's, in my opinion, easier just to look at the core mechanisms of the hormones and make your healthcare decision that way. But they thought
That's
this.
not for everyone.
That's not for
Well,
everybody.
hormones are also just one variable of a patient's existence, okay? When you really look at someone, you've got to look at their entire eating, lifestyle, stress, exposure to toxicity, et cetera, et cetera. You can't just like look at one variable because it's everything's way more complicated than that. And we have this reductionistic theory in medicine that, oh, you just take this and you're going to feel great. Well, no, because first of all, the placebo effect. I remember years ago, a drug rep came by and he said, oh, this great drug for anxiety and depression and so forth. And I said, so what is the placebo effect of this? 53%.
Placebos are a vibe. Okay,
like you thought you took it and there was a 53% placebo. It's like, well, you might as well try the placebo first.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So again, medical studies are really, they are only focusing on one thing. There isn't just one thing to your existence.
Yeah, and in a study, not every person has the exact same makeup. So it's
Right.
like, it's going to be.
Yeah, so I always say that, because we were talking, I met with some of my staff yesterday, because they go, okay, so people ask, well, what are your clinical trials? And I said, well, first of all, in cancer alone, 47 out of 53 studies couldn't be repeated after 50 times in oncology studies. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, everyone is an original, like I said before. We're all in one of our own clinical trial.
Yeah.
Because no one is like you. No one is like me. Our fingerprints, right? If you look at the 7 billion people, everybody's got a unique fingerprint, okay? And everyone's living in a different world every day, right? Like what we're eating,
Thought patterns.
Thought patterns, exercise, exposure, toxicity, how we metabolize them, how we detoxify. Do we have methylation issues? I mean, it goes on and on. So we need to get back to treating preventive, precise, personalized medicine.
Yeah. How often do you see menopausal women that are estrogen dominant still? Maybe they were like their entire life and
I would say lots of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Lots of women are.
Yeah, because it's kind of a common fallacy that like when you're in menopause, you're always low in estrogen. It's just not true. Like your blood levels lower to a level that doesn't produce a menstrual cycle, like from your ovaries, estrogen, but that doesn't mean you're low necessarily in estrogen.
Right. Well, I asked the patient. I asked the patient, like, there's women that have no symptoms going through menopause.
Yeah.
Like literally. And so I will say, okay, I'll go over hot flashes, vaginal dryness, sex drive, et cetera, et cetera. And then I always treat the patient, not the problem. So why would you give somebody if they're like, I feel great. I don't have any vaginal dryness. I'm 60 years old. No, I'm like, okay, then like, good. This is great. Right. So you need to ask the right questions and treat the patient with the problem, not the problem with the patient.
I think the concern is like now they're saying to use estrogen like preventatively. Like you don't have symptoms. Like I've seen this kind of after all of this FDA news, like doctors are like, yeah, you should get them on it right away. Like you don't even have to have symptoms. It's preventative because estrogen is this longevity drug, So.
Yeah, right. So because they're saying that don't wait. You should institute.
Don't wait till you have an issue.
Right. Don't wait. But that's like, no, because like I have 55-year-old women who have amazing estrogen levels. Like, why would you? And the biggest thing I've learned in 39 years, you don't want to give a woman estrogen because what does it do? Makes you gain weight. And the worst enemy for every woman is weight, weight, and weight. So estrogen is a fattening hormone. That's why they use it, in industry to fatten up cows.
That's what they use DES for, to fatten up cattle. But then it was giving them like cancer and stuff.
Yeah. So you don't want to give a woman estrogen if she.
The real black box label.
Yeah, that is the exactly.
It's the weight gain.
Make you
It's the
all
weight.
you have to do is say weight gain at the top, and it'll make some women pause.
Yeah,
I will say though, because it's so stimulatory, some women don't gain weight on it.
that's true. Again, it goes back to everyone is different. It's very nuanced.
Which completely out the window on social media. I've not seen any of these doctors bring up the obvious fact that unopposed estrogen can cause cancer, breast cancer, endometrial cancer, PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, fibrocystic breasts, heart disease, osteoporosis.
Because it's easier to say we don't know how people get cancer. We don't like you could get it. We don't know.
It's just crazy.
Right.
The health of the breast is determined by sex hormones, steroids, you know? And so I don't know.
And there's there's literally a hormonal dance.
Yeah.
That's going on 24/7. And then you're not living in your own world, you're living of this world. And unfortunately, we have lots of pollutants that are estrogenic that we have to address also. That's why I always do a toxic pollutant panel on patients, because it looks at the potential of estrogenic compounds. And you mix that with our own physiology, and we don't know how it's going to manifest in all of us. I mean, Rachel Carson wrote the book Silent Spring. She talked about this 70 years ago. And they all said she was crazy. And now they're all saying, oh, no. You know, the Department of Ethics now is saying, oh, wow, we discounted everything she said.
Yeah.
But she talked about these estrogenic compounds in nature and how it was affecting.
I think it must be
nature.
so confusing to be like a woman today, because you're told like birth control can increase your risks of cancer. I think that's kind of communicated a little bit.
I think it's yes, but the amount of people that are on it because their doctor told them to go on it, or my daughter got acne, so she went on it. My period wasn't normal, so I went on it. Like, whatever reason
I have migraines, so I get on it.
migraines. Oh my gosh. There's so many, there's just so many reasons why they just like flippantly prescribe like birth control that I don't think anyone actually sits with this could cause cancer.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the stroke thing of people, like how many women smoked, like when smoking was a bigger thing while doing birth control. It was like, yeah, it could.
Yeah.
But like, not going to stop,
Yeah.
The risk of pregnancy is too much.
Right. So they're told.
And if someone's young, birth control pill may be necessary because that's just the easiest thing for a young woman to do. But then the doctor should be saying, like, you better take care of your microbiome because it increases the growth of fungus. Your testosterone level is going to go down. So I'm going to check your testosterone to see what it is before and after use of birth control, because testosterone affects so many things and affects your sense of well-being, your depression, anxiety, and all these things. Not to mention nutritional deficiencies caused by birth control pills. Not to mention you're turning off your biological rhythm. So when I was giving birth control pills, I mean, I don't really see that many young women. Some of the other staff in my office see the young women to prescribe. But we do all these countermeasures, and the nutritional deficiencies also that birth control pills can affect. So, like, again, there is a place sometimes for birth control pills, medicines, whatever it is, but use it in the right context and then also protect the patient at the same time.
Yeah, I also think like it's not, I mean, after my journey with the LA strips of knowing when you're ovulate, like it's not that hard to figure out when you're gonna ovulate.
It is that hard, but it's also like there's a lot of responsibility there.
Yes.
Right.
And I think not everyone's ready for that responsibility. Like
I agree.
In your 30s, so like having the responsibility of like doing an LH strip and like you want to know about your body. There's a lot of people that like don't want to know about their body and don't want to take responsibility for another body. So like, that is the best measure, is to be on birth control. It's the easiest one. It's gonna, prevent things.
But when are you like gonna, if you have a baby girl, like how are you gonna like teach her how to LH strip?
Oh my, are you kidding me? Of course.
You're gonna go.
It'd be the biggest honor. and also you don't really need to LH strip unless you're like trying
sexually
to conceive
and
sexually active, or if you're like wanting to use progesterone. Like you don't have to do that. You know when you're like, when you're fertile, the window.
Yeah.
At least. And so,
but that can also be risky, as you know, because you have to know the life of a sperm is 72 hours. then it's like a tricky.
No,
so you really got to be.
But the LH strips, it's not that
and
tricky.
that's the beauty of homeschooling.
Yeah.
It's like that's what I get to talk to my
Just as
daughter about.
homeschool. This is like American Girl doll, but like school.
Yeah,
But
I'm gonna come out with my own doll, guys. But no, it's like it's such an amazing part of being a woman is knowing how your body works.
Yeah.
And there's constantly going to be something that you're figuring out. Like I'm 33 and I'm still figuring out my body
Totally.
every single day. Like it changes. And so explaining that to a daughter that like your body is going to change and that's okay. And like figuring out, how to do that dance within yourself.
Yeah.
It's like
I kind of want it to be like just a thing like we do in our family. It's like we know we know when we're fertile. We know the deal. Because like she is gonna get a boyfriend at some point.
I also like that we're saying that I have a daughter, but we don't know yet. No, but I mean, also just talking to my son about like me being pregnant, and he like wants to know how babies are made, and we're talking about like sperm, and we're talking about all these different actions that the body does, and he's so fascinated by it all. Like I was explaining to him, like, oh, he's like, maybe I'm producing sperm right now. I'm like, not quite yet. You're a little bit older. And he's obsessed with the idea that like people think he's older than he is. He's like, oh, Mom, like they probably think I'm 16. Like that person probably thinks I'm 16. And I'm like, no. And he's like, but his whole thing with the sperm is he's like, I'll probably start producing sperm pretty early. I think I'm going to do it early. I'm like, please, no, I think we're going to be fine. But it's just like, it's so amazing being able to have those conversations with my 5-year-old. Like they're never too young to start knowing about their body.
No, the sooner the better. That's what I say is if you could teach them right off the bat.
We're not even teaching people at all.
We should be teaching everyone about the miraculous human body and how it works and how do we do to take care of it and honor the circadian rhythm, et cetera. I mean, I know that a lot of my patients are teaching their kids.
Yes.
So I'm so happy. I feel like the 30-year-olds are going to just change the trajectory of medicine.
Yeah, instead of just fearing our body and not knowing how these things work and not knowing all the hormones in our bodies, like or being scared of certain ones and saying this one's a bad one, this one's a good one. It's like, no, even one that would be considered bad, there's a purpose for it. And it's like, it's actually so good if you sit down with that hormone and think about it. It's like,
it's so
everything
cool.
is so beautiful. And I love it.
It's so true. Estrogen's the kiss of life and death. And that is like existence in a nutshell.
And nothing's more beautiful than that thin line between life and death. Like
I have chills. I do. Yeah, it's really beautiful. But what I was saying is that like we say like plastics are estrogenic and like all these things are issues with estrogen, but then when you get into menopause, it's a good thing. But then when you get estrogen blockers, if you get breast cancer, it's a bad thing. And then you can use it a little bit though. Your cancer might come back. Like I can't even imagine getting all these messages and just being like, who's right? Like what's going on. Right. That's why you really have to like just understand.
And then talking to your doctor and then not totally having the full picture.
Yeah, and then we get messages all the time that's like, I was on it for 10 years. They didn't give me progesterone. They didn't even tell me it was important. Or you didn't have enough progesterone, and then you get cancer. And it's just
right. And you do need all the hormones in balance and in symmetry. You do know. You don't just. I always tell people like males and females have the same hormones. Women's are different than men, and
exposure wise,
yes,
like amount
wise, and so, but we honor that physiology.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just say, "Oh, estrogen is going to solve all your problems." No, like it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, yeah, and the problem is like modernity is kind of an estrogen soup,
right?
And so, like, what happens at menopause is really a culmination of your life. It's like a crowning of your life, and it's actually a really beautiful rite of passage. And in other cultures, it's very honored that a woman is now entering into this matriarchal, like wise moment in her life. We don't really treat it that way. But the problem is like during your entire life, a lot of the food you eat is estrogenic. Like even PUFAs can be very estrogenic in the body. Right. Drugs can be very estrogenic. Then like, a lot of plastics and clothes. Yeah. The first endocrine disruptor like was soot, which is a cancer causing drug. What men were getting, testicular cancer because of soot, which is estrogenic. And so people like talk about these things and not realizing like the reason they cause cancer is because they're estrogenic. So we're like told these things kind of like in a blurry way, instead of just talking about the honest truth about it, because I guess some people do feel like it's negative, but just not trying to be negative, just trying to explain it all, I guess. I don't feel like it's negative. Like we're all women. We all have estrogen in our body.
Well, science is changing every second, okay? We're learning. It's dynamic. We're learning all the time. And so we should all be in cooperation, collaboration, how we elevate humanity.
Yeah, I was reading here, median growth hormone levels were 125 times higher than those women that weren't taking birth control. It's like kind of crazy. So, yeah, you just want to be careful about that estrogen exposure over your life, because it's getting more and more common in modernity, Yeah. So anyways, our lives won't really change because of the FDA changes, but it's good to know the nuances of it all. I was talking to my friends that work in the MAHA, and they were like, these guys that are doing all this, like they have no idea what they're talking about. And I was like, it's kind of sad that that's the truth.
You mean the doctors or the people working in it?
Both. They're like, they don't know what's any of this means, really. They're just kind of like getting pressured to do this.
Right.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. Dr. Oz, Dr. McCary, I think they're both surgeons, and now they're working in the MAHA, and I think they're trying to change things, but I think they didn't ever like work where like they're taking care of women every day, right?
Yeah.
And taking care of hormones every day. Like you got to like hear it every day, all day long, and read about it. Like I never stop reading about hormones and their effect on the body. Okay. And especially now that I'm in, beyond menopause, et cetera, hormones are the natural chemical messengers.
So you give estrogen blockers, you've been affected by an estrogen drug, but you apply a little bit of estrogen on your body, right?
I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I see even at my age though, like sometimes I don't need it. I can feel like I don't need it. And then sometimes I feel like I need it. And even at my age, it should be, I would think like consistent, but it's not really. But I also I take progesterone. I've been on progesterone for probably my entire life.
Yeah.
And then testosterone, I do a little bit of that. I do a little pregnenolone. I do a little DHEA sulfate. And I can, now that I've lived such a hormonal conundrum since such a very early age, like, taking Lupron taught me a lot about things, okay? Having completely irregular, no menstrual cycles, I learned so much about hormones when I was pregnant with Grant and Alana, and I had a complicated pregnancy, and I was sick for like 5-6 years, and that was when my pituitary was affected. So I learned like the poorly functioning pituitary was devastation to me. Okay. And I went to all these doctors, and no one could help me like figure it out. I mean, they just like, well, maybe it's this and maybe it's that. And then, when I fixed my pituitary, it was like, oh, whoa, I'm alive again. So we have to look at everything. And fortunately, my experience has taught me to help people, because reading in a book and the living experience are completely two different things.
And Jess is progesterone maxing.
What?
Jess is progesterone. You said what you're taking, and Jess can share what hormones she's taking.
What are you taking?
I'm on progesterone and DHEA. And I'm loving life. I'm feeling good.
She's progesterone maxing.
We're getting some high IQ baby.
Right.
My friends last night, they're like, this is our progesterone baby. The other one's not a progesterone baby. This one's a progesterone baby. Catherine Dalton did like a bunch of work that she used progesterone on pregnant ladies, and she found that like their babies were very strong-willed and high IQ.
Yeah, well, I use progesterone on all my pregnancies. So I mean, a long time ago. Like that was a big thing. Yeah, it was her, and I forget John Lee.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many iconic people that talked about progesterone. I mean, it's still talked about, but people don't understand like the magic of progesterone.
They still say they are only recommending it to protect the uterine lining when you take estrogen.
No, but it helps your brain. It helps you like be calm. It helps your bones. It helps you not have clots. It helps your thyroid. It's like literally, I would change when I gave myself a progesterone shot. Now this is like almost 40 years ago. Like literally, I would change in hours. Yeah. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I'm this person and that person within 6 hours. Like it taught me so much how.
Did you ever get drowsy?
No. I got calm, cool, collected. Okay. My brain worked amazing after I took progesterone, and bloating went down.
It's so funny that some people experience the drowsiness. They experience the bloating from progesterone.
Oh, no. I know. It helped all of that. That's what I'm saying. Like, other people. Like, I've never really had patients get drowsy I would say that's a rare complaint, getting drowsy. I think that's probably just dose related.
Yeah.
Because we don't have this one size fits all. And there are a few patients, like I would say 1 in 1,000, that are progesterone sensitive. They just cannot do it. I've seen it. I respect it. And again, listen to the patient.
Yeah,
the patient has all
your
the answers.
Experience. I'm not discounting it. No, before I got pregnant, I was taking progesterone, cyclically, and I would count down the days. And I'm like, okay, and I just ovulated. I can take my progesterone really soon. And then when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, wait, I don't have to stop. Like, this is gonna be fun. It's gonna be a good few months.
Right.
Yeah. Progesterone is very anti-cancer, very anti-proliferative. Like, so you can imagine estrogen's like telling cells to divide. Progesterone literally tells them to stop dividing. Mm-hmm. So that's why I've tweeted before. I'm like, it's seems so ridiculous to me that we don't give it to more breast cancer patients. Even triple negative, you don't have hormones act with receptors, but also, on the cell without the receptor involved. So there's just so many amazing things progesterone can do. So that's why we think, maybe trying it first and foremost. But I did see a video that was like, no, what progesterone is recommended for is to avoid any issues with the uterine lining, and that's it.
Well, no, that brings up a good point, that women who've had a hysterectomy, they shouldn't just be taking estrogen alone. They should be combining it with progesterone because of the whole body effects of progesterone.
Yeah. And imagine you get your hysterectomy a lot of times because of estrogen dominance. And then they're like, here, more estrogen, no progesterone. I'm like, what are we doing here, guys? Mm-hmm. And that happens all the time. And then what can happen is they may end up with breast cancer or different type of cancer that's hormonally sensitive because they're just giving more estrogen. Well, why you got hysterectomy could have been due to the estrogen dominance.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So you gotta really be in the driver's seat when you're taking hormones.
Also, we're always talking about bioidentical progesterone. I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, my doctor put me on progesterone, and you're like, what kind? You know what I mean? It's most people just think it's the same.
Yeah.
In my experience,
you're right.
So
true.
You have to clarify.
Clarifying that when we're talking about how much we love progesterone, we're talking about bioidentical and not.
Because the mini pill is called progestin. And a lot of people are on the mini pill, which is a type of birth control that's synthetic progesterone.
Or the IUD that
It makes progesterone. I know I was reading someone had their BRCA, so they had all their ovaries removed, breasts removed, and then they were using an IUD for progesterone.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
You're like, that's a special way to do it.
Oh, so why wouldn't you just use natural progesterone? Why would you have an IUD, which is a foreign body?
Well, they didn't know that was the option.
Chronic inflammation. So
yeah, progestin, the synthetic, is estrogenic and possibly androgenic. It depends on the type.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, and they use levonorgestrel.
So
So
LNG
that comes with its own inherent issues too.
Yeah.
So if you're going to use IUD, it should not have hormones.
So how do you put in your brain, like, because people, people are like, I'm taking estrogen, I feel great. And you're able in your brain to weigh the risks and you still use it because you understand it, or why, or because you use it intermittently, or use it only when you need it. Like, how do women, they're like, how do I know when I need it? And I remember one time, sorry if I may say, like, we talked like years ago and you were like, I've used it when I feel like the walls are closing in. I felt like that was so metaphorical to kind of like connecting with how Ray Pete describes estrogen as the hormone of new beginnings.
Right. Because I feel like, okay, my brain is, the curtains are closing.
Yeah.
When I don't have estrogen, I was like, oh, this is, not good. And it's true, and women will not only feel, I personally never have hot flashes. But I will get like the brain is shutting down. I can't synthesize. I have gauze between my ears, like everything's closing down, right? So I know. And it's, women don't really talk to me about that other than they say they have foggy brain. Okay. But also there's a fatigue factor with every hormone, the lack of a fatigue factor with all hormones, like low DHEA, low testosterone. There's a fatigue component. And now most women, though, once they go through like complete menopause, they have more consistency in their symptoms. Now my body's a little different. And I think the imbalance is caused from me not really ever having that circadian rhythm with my body. And so, because at 68, my body shouldn't be turning on, it literally shouldn't, but it happened. But I could tell.
You got a second wind.
Yeah, exactly. And then, there are, like, we should talk about this because there are companies now trying to like preserve part of your ovaries. So like when you go through menopause, you can get like an ovary transplant.
Wow.
And I know there's a girl working on this, I think in England somewhere. Yeah. So like you take part of the ovarian tissue and you, like once you go through menopause, they're going to regenerate and replenish your ovary. So, I mean, that might be kind of nice, and you don't take hormones. You just, regenerate your ovary. So
it's kind of one of those things of being like this preventative thing that people should do when it's not it's not totally necessary, right? For everyone to have to do that, even if they don't know if they're going to have an issue down the line.
Right.
And then,
well, and it's also like feasibility. Like,
yeah.
What are you going to do? Take part of your ovary out when you're young and save it for you when you're in menopause. Okay. So
it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Or it's like cord banking almost. Like you take all that blood from that baby that's like, I think it's like 45% of their blood is in the cord. And it's like, oh no, we're going to cut the cord right away. The baby's not going to get all that blood that they need. And we're going to save this placenta for another day.
I've seen those companies. I know.
Right.
Oh
no, it used to be huge. It used to be huge. And then you have to pay to, have
every
it
month.
banked and
save
this
it.
whole thing where it's like, we actually know that like the baby needs all that blood, and don't touch the cord until all that blood is in the baby. Because then it's robbing the baby of, if they need that to thrive, birth is an extremely, amazing thing, but it's also a lot of work on the baby.
Yeah.
So they need that. They need that blood.
Yeah. And is it questionable the like claims they make about how like one day you could use that for like peptides to save like a life saving
situation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there veracity to that's because that's why you do it, right?
No, I mean, but it also just scares parents that like your kid's gonna have an issue down the road, and you need this thing. If you don't do this right now and make this decision right now,
it's a money machine.
Yeah,
right. And you bank it, and I've never known anyone that's used it.
No.
I know because I've had friends that have.
Yeah, because they think that's the right thing to do. It's like
I know someone that owns one of those companies. And it seems like such an amazing recurring revenue because you just pay every month
for the bank for them.
And you
to
may
bank
or may not use it, and it may or may not work.
There's also like I think they're like plastic surgeons that are now working with your like you can have your placenta harvested. So, you use all the blood for the baby, and then you take the stem cells, and then you as mom get to inject yourself.
Yeah,
Right.
what do you think of that?
All that.
Yeah, they do have that. That's
Not
how
no.
they make. That's how they make exosomes.
Yeah,
and
but you're
placenta
using
stem
your
cells.
like own babies.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of hot.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Placenta, a lot of progesterone gets around there.
Yeah, I like to.
Yeah.
I always
Well,
What's
placenta
your
is-
ritual?
take a few little pills. My placenta, I love
Yeah,
it.
right.
Because I had Lucky in January of 2020. So when everyone started freaking out about the COVID, if the stress levels got too much, I would just pop 2 placenta pills, and I was like, I feel
Good
great
as new.
actually.
Yeah.
We're fine.
It's very medicinal.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, in Japan, they have placenta clinics where you use injectable placenta to help your skin,
Placenta face
anti-inflammatory, and feel good.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like you could take it and be like way too stimulated.
Yeah.
It's just it's
Right.
And then with Frankie, for some reason I didn't feel like I needed it as much. Like whereas Lucky, I was like,
Yeah.
I gravitated towards it, but I still have extra ones from Frank.
Interesting.
If you want some.
Just kidding. Are you offering? You're like, I have in my pocket here.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, just
Take one. Yeah. So, anyways, one thing I wanted to add is like cream versus capsules of estrogen, because one of the reasons you may want to use topical estrogen if you are going to go on estrogen is it doesn't get metabolized through the liver, and it can be
Right.
very, very burdensome to put estrogen like a ton of it through the liver. So that's why we do transdermal, but people do the oral a
Oral
lot,
pills too. Mhm.
which is not my preferred way of doing it. And also, mind you, like when you're going over your routine, like you're 68 years old. That is way different than a woman in 41 years old.
Oh yeah, completely different.
And so your like hormone routine may change and evolve.
And it has. Mine has changed my whole life. Correct.
Yeah. And so it's not this like stagnant thing where you just get on your patch and you do that. And the progesterone, like, no, it evolves with you. You're aging, your body's changing.
yeah, and you can like question things and question how you feel. I think a lot of times people get prescribed something and then they're like told this is going to be the answer, and they're too scared to question how they feel. And they're like, well, I'm supposed to be feeling this way, but I'm feeling
Yes.
this way. And then they almost get gaslit a little bit. Like
Yes.
you can start taking something and the next day decide this doesn't work for my body.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have to like adjust, and you have to listen to your body, the cues that it's giving you.
There's
Instead
like,
of just
yeah.
like, I feel horrible, but I'm just going to keep following.
There's like weird studies that if you're like more likely to listen to your doctor, you like feel better when they give you a medicine.
Yeah.
There's like all these weird things, like kind of like placebos, you know. It's just like when you trust your doctor more, what they give you, you're more likely to take, and you're more likely to like think you feel better,
Oh, yeah. I believe that.
which is interesting. But yeah, it's good to be aware of it because they're like, as we've seen, the estrogens are now suggested as a longevity drug, and it's way more complicated than that. And don't really want to end up in a situation where you have too much estrogen unopposed by progesterone or thyroid or DHEA, because that's not a healthy place to be. That's why the body fine tunes it, literally has a protector in place, only exposes us to a tiny little bit to prepare us to have a baby when you really need a ton of estrogen. I mean, it's not even a ton, it's like just a small amount, a strong amount. I think those are our final thoughts on it. We'll continue the conversation though, as we do.
As things evolve.
As things evolve. We write about it every single day. I mean, I like feel like it doesn't even perform that well. It's just like something we feel that is right to do, is to explain these nuances to give you the best possibility to make healthcare decisions. Let us know if you have any more questions on this topic.
Do we have any questions now?
I think we do, but I don't think we have enough time.
Okay.
Amazing.
All right.
So that's it. Well, this has been another episode of Celluverse, and we're so happy that you joined us today. My name's Alana Keneally. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Celluverse is the podcast where we get real about what's making us sick and what it actually takes to get better. Hosted by Alana Keneally, Jess Donovan, and Dr. Lee Aaron Keneally, this show pulls back the curtain on mitochondria, metabolism, hormones, toxins, cancer, and all the stuff your doctor shrugs off. We dig into the science, but also the lived experience of what it means to be healthy in today's world.
Just a reminder, anything discussed on this podcast is not medical advice.
And nothing can actually harm you if you're pure of heart.